Okay, we are officially live.
Awesome.
Yeah. Thanks for taking some time to meet with me today.
Absolutely.
For those of you that don't know Candice, you are missing out in life. Candice and I, she's actually been, how long have you been with the KW office?
4 years.
4 years. So even though you've been with the office for 4 years, I guess it's been a little over a year since you and I started actually interacting a little bit more with each other. And I just got to tell you how impressed I've been with you. And I've told you a little bit about this before. Is there's people that just have an incredible energy about them, that you're just like, I want to be more around that person. And you're just one of those people. Your energy is just always incredible. You're always smiling. You always want to contribute, which I just really enjoy that about you. So thank you for being you.
Thank you. I love the KW team.
Yeah, it's the whole team's pretty incredible. And for those of you that don't know, Candice is on our Agent Leadership Council for the St. George office, which in the KW infrastructure, our Agent Leadership Council, some of our top agents come together to help make decisions around the direction of the office. And it's a volunteer piece. We don't obviously, I didn't know if you know this or not, we don't pay you for that.
Yeah, I know.
you haven't been getting your checks for being it, but you and the other ALC members are huge contributors to the success of our office. So thank you. So Candice and I share a passion around real estate investing, and we both own property management companies, which has given us some interesting conversations. And that's kind of the focus of our conversation today, is talking around specifically investing. We can talk a little bit about property management, because I think that's an important part of being a great investor, is having a great property manager to take care of your property, because it can increase your return on investment. But let's go back a little bit to how long have you been in real estate, and how long ago was it the same time you started your property management company?
I've been in real estate 16 years, and I started right off the gates with property management. I did commercial properties, and then I thought I would just dabble in residential, and now I mainly do like 99% residential.
Okay, awesome. That's awesome. And then you joined KW 4 years ago. What was the draw to property management for you? Because it's always interesting to me that people end up doing, like, wanting to do a little bit of property management until they understand what goes into property management.
Right.
And then people are like, I do not want to do that. But then there's people like you and I that have figured out a passion around it. What was that draw for you?
For me, I saw a niche that I knew that my personality would fit best, and I saw a need for a truly reliable and honest property management company that would bring value to the community. And I don't know that that's necessarily why I mean, that's how it evolved. But at first, I loved working with people and properties, and I just wanted to help people.
That's awesome. Very cool. And then you're obviously also you coach and consult investors on buying investment properties, but you're also an investor yourself. Tell me a little bit about how you got into the investing side personally.
Personally, well, I really admired my father, and that's he purchased a property, I'd say 25 years ago, and I wanted to be like him. And so I figured if I learned how to do property management, it would give me more knowledge in how to properly take care of a property that I purchased. And it was about 5 years ago I bought my first property, and I was super scared at first. It was obviously a big step for me, and then the second one came easier, and I plan to have more.
Awesome.
But yeah, my dad really inspired me.
I love that. It's interesting, a lot of investment books and big time investors, they talk a lot about how the quality of the investment is really made on the acquisition, right? Which I think there's a lot of knowledge in that. Is if you buy a property right, you're gonna more than likely come out really good on that investment. However, something I feel like most investment books don't talk about that I think is a really critical piece is it's the acquisition. And then there are specific things you can do to protect the future value or the ongoing value of that asset. And I think there's specific things you can do to affect appreciation. There's specific things you can do to protect the quality of the investment. And I think that's where a really good property manager comes in. And I kind of approached property management on the other side from you, as I was a real estate investor first.
Mm-hmm.
And I could not find a property manager that did their job the way I wanted it done to protect my assets, right?
Yeah.
I felt like most property managers, their mindset around property management was more like, well, they send me the check, I take my portion of it, and I send you the rest. That was like their definition of property management. And I'm like, that is not what a property manager should do. So I'm going to let you in on a little secret, is that when I found out with it, you were doing property management and kind of operating that piece, I was like, I'm worried about this. I'm going to go poke holes in her business plan, thinking that you were the normal property manager. And I was just so impressed with all your answers. I'm like, okay, she thinks like I do. She's the real deal. So I know that as you help investors and talk through with your owners that you represent them, talk me through, from your perspective, what are the most important things in a great investment property?
In a great investment property, location. A lot of it's like when you're purchasing a home, an area that will draw, you obviously want a bigger pool of people looking at the property than a smaller amount of people, just so that you can pick and choose a better quality tenant. And so location is a big factor, but it also depends on what each person's goals are with it as an investment, because, like for me, I started out small and I knew I could purchase 2 bedrooms for less. And right now in St. George, you can rent 2 bedrooms for a higher amount for what you purchased them for than you would a 5 bedroom or a 4 bedroom. So it kind of depends on each investors and what their goal is. I do work with a lot of people that are retiring, and they want to rent it out for 3 to 4 years until they get to retirement. But I will say that a lot of those investors, they find out, oh, this works great. And they're like, I think we'll just keep renting this and then buy another one. Yeah. And so, and then they buy from the agent that referred them to me, because I am a non-compete agent. I want to make that very clear.
Yeah. No, I think that's really brilliant to do that, where you specialize in property management.
Yes.
And there's obviously hundreds of phenomenal agents in our office that can represent the real estate transaction. I will say this, though, that I think while we have, in our industry, we have a lot of great real estate agents that all went through the same 120 hours to get their real estate license, I will say that it is a completely different language that you need to know to really represent an investor client. And I would encourage any agent that's watching this is just like you are going to live in a different country, you would need to learn that language to be able to fully communicate there. It is the same thing in the investment world. If it will become really clear, really fast to your investor clients that you do not speak the investment language if you have not done your homework. So I would encourage any agent out there to do your homework. I do teach the class How to Speak Investor, which I'd be thrilled to teach again next time I'm in St. George, if we get enough people that are interested. If you are interested in that class, go ahead and comment below so we can get that scheduled. But it's a skill set to learn, and it's completely different than a regular residential transaction.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I'm curious with your conversations right now with owners and investors. A lot of people are asking me, like, based on the economy right now, based on COVID going on, based on home prices right now, they're making a lot of blanket statements around what the investment opportunity is right now. Some pro, some con around whether it's a great time to invest. How are you addressing that with your investor clients or your owners that are calling you right now saying, hey, what's going on in the investment world? What are your thoughts around that?
Well, honestly, right now, St. George, I know COVID is going on the outskirts, but as far as the rental market, it's strong. And what I like to tell people, because I've been in it for 16 years, and what I've noticed is even when we had the housing market that crashed, we were still renting homes. And this is what really drew me to property management in the first place, is stability. And there will always be someone that needs a home. And that's the truth of it. The only thing that was different during '08, '09 was that we lowered rent prices. And so some, there were investors that was a struggle for them because they had bought high and then their rents were, but for the most part, all of those, they ended up when the market changed, they sold. So I really think it's a hold game. And as long as you're in it for the long term, what I have seen is investors that bought during that time and rents continue have gone up and they've done very well. So what I think is that it is a hold game. And if you're willing to hold for a period of time, you're going to see the benefit in so many different facets of, you know, of the the rental business.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree with you more. I think, and you had made a comment a few minutes ago where you said you talked about the specific goals of the investor, right?
Mhm.
And I really think right now when people ask questions around, is it a great time to invest? There is no correct answer for everybody, right?
Mhm. No,
A really great agent or investor is going to be asking the questions of, okay, what's my specific situation? Where am I at? What does my current portfolio look at? And one of the things to kind of consider is I get a lot of people be like, man, all these houses are so expensive right now versus what they were in 2011 and 2012. And yeah, I can fall in that same boat too. I look back at the houses I bought in 2011, 2012, 2013 versus what the prices are now. I can't necessarily say, oh, that's a bad investment now because that house is $90,000 more money now than it was, several years ago or 10 years ago or whatever it was.
right,
But really the thing to look at is even though prices may be higher, because we know there's still demand going on, right?
right.
There's a couple things going on that are really in favor of an investor right now. Interest rates are so low right now that even if the prices of the homes went down by 10%, and at some point interest rates have to go up some, even if they go up by 1%, it's still a better deal to buy at a little bit higher price with a lower interest rate over a 30-year term than it is to wait for prices to come down 10% and buy it at a higher interest rate. The other thing to look at, I mean, there's the price fluctuates on the home, but the other thing we got to look at is the rental prices fluctuate too based on renter demand, right? If
Absolutely.
there's a bunch of empty houses out there to rent, all of a sudden rent starts coming down. If vacancy is very low, then all of a sudden rental prices are starting to go up. And we start thinking about when unemployment starts to go up and people are losing their job and their income opportunity, a lot of those people end up not buying. They can't qualify to buy, which they end up becoming tenants,
Mm-hmm.
right? And
Yeah.
so a lot of those tenants are coming across, and we're seeing that those rental prices are staying relatively high based on the demand on rental property. Is that what you're feeling in your market right now as well?
Yes. And I mainly work with people that are moving here from out of state. That I work with people all day long that are not from Utah.
Yeah, right. And if
So
are you talking more on the owner investor side or the tenant side? Both, probably.
both.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And a tenant coming into St. George, like right now, I know the portfolio you manage. By the way, if you don't know, Candice manages hundreds of properties, but what's the average rent price on the properties you manage? Because I know you have a really nice portfolio.
I would say between 16 and 17 would be an average.
1,600, $1,700. You think about if that person was renting in Southern California or they owned in Southern California, what their average rent there was probably
It's thousand.
35,
Yeah.
$4,000. So they're coming here thinking like, this
Rent's
is
cheap.
this is cheap. I'm saving so much money, right? So I think that's the opportunity. The other thing I'm constantly looking at is if I can get into a property with 30-40% down at a low interest rate, locked in over 30 years,
Mhm.
as if and when inflation kicks in and interest rates go back up, my mortgage payment's going to stay the same.
Exactly.
However, rents will go up with inflation, which that return on investment really increases over time as well. So I think,
Absolutely.
again, I think it is specific to the investor, but I think there's so much opportunity out there right now that people are ignoring.
Well, and I think you bring up a great point, to all the agents out there, is to ask the investors what is their goal. Because if you know what their goal is with that property, you could better tailor the properties to them. And that's one of the services that I offer, is to help. So when an agent gets involved with an investor, they can send me, their listings that they're looking at. I can let them know how much they rent for, how that area rents, the floor plans. I mean, all of that. And that's just to help them with that investor. And I'm really here to help.
Yeah. No, and I love that about you. I know that you really come from a place of contribution. And again, I think we can't hit enough the importance of asking great questions. And the truth of the matter is, and a lot of our agents have heard me talk about this over the last even couple of months, is right now the number one skill set that I think every agent or every business person should be working on is learning to ask better questions.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, both on just a normal consumer, a normal client, buyer, seller, and an investor right now, they're asking questions around the future, the market, the future of the market, where things are going more now than they have over the last really almost decade, because the market's it's been pretty clear what the market has been doing over the last several years, where we've had constant appreciation, the economy's been booming, the stock market had been stable all through that time, where realistically everyone thought they were a real estate genius, where the market was just on such a bullish run that really everyone was winning. All of a sudden, everyone's got some uncertainty around what's going on, that they need that expert more than ever before. And the way we become the expert is asking great questions.
I agree.
Right. Well, one of the questions that I usually bring up with my investor clients when I'm working with them, either if I'm going to represent them on a investor transaction, and a lot of times with what I'm doing right now is, because my team actually does the investor transactions, but a lot of what I'm doing, if I'm working with an investor about coming in on a project with me, one of the things that always surprises them, because investors particularly can smell commission breath a mile away, right?
Right.
If they feel like, hey, we're talking you into this deal because I'm going to get a commission, they can perceive that. One of the things that I think is really important for us to help guide our investor clients through is show them the opportunity to invest in real estate and what that looks like. But one of the things I always ask is to say, hey, just for a minute, I do think this is a great investment opportunity, but let's put it aside for a second. If you were going to take $100,000 to put into this deal, if this deal was not available, where else would you put that money right now? Because I think it's important for us to say, by you saying yes to investing in this real estate, what are you saying no to? Right. So for a lot of them, it's that money sitting in a bank account. So a 9% cash on cash return in your rental property is much better than a 0.002% return on a bank account. But what if they're pulling money out of an annuity or out of a business that is making 20% return, right? So it's important for us to be able to coach, and sometimes it means we're going to lose out on a commission. But to me, that's the recipe of a really phenomenal investor representer, is being able to say, by saying yes to this, what else are you saying no to? And is that a better opportunity than this?
Correct. Because that's what our goal is. We want to help people become financially independent. And I mean, that's my goal in property management, is to protect their investment. This is the largest investment that they probably have. And so the number one thing I do is who I place in that home. And so it's super important.
Yeah. One other thing I think a lot of agents are missing on right now, and I wanted to get your take on it, is a lot of our agents, they have their sphere of influence, the people that they know, right? And a lot of them make the statement of like, well, there's really not any investors in my sphere. I don't know any investors, or I might know one or two, but they've helped hundreds of people buy and sell homes over the last several years. And what I'd really encourage agents to do is, as you learn the language of being an investor and you go down that path of being an investor yourself, and I think every agent should be a real estate investor.
Absolutely.
I think part of our duty is educating the general public on the opportunity of investing in real estate, because They've all seen the late night infomercials. They think it sounds cool, but they have fear around it because there's unknown. So one of the biggest opportunities right now is I look at the number of transactions that happened for first-time home buyers. Oh, and we know that about 35% of all transactions are first-time home buyers. Generally speaking, home buyers are between that age of like 25 to 35. And generally they're moving into a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house. They've just got their first job. They're all excited about it. But within a couple of years, all of a sudden they've got a couple extra kids. They've got a couple extra pets. They've been promoted at work. And now they're looking at upsizing homes, right? We need a bigger house. Well, one of the things I think is a missed opportunity when people reach out to us to say, I need to upgrade house, listing that house for that person may be the best solution, but it may be a better long-term solution for them to say, have you thought about turning this into an investment property?
I love it. I love it.
And I think that's a challenging question for a lot of agents to have because they want the opportunity for that sell. But imagine the loyalty to you as an agent if you're helping them build their net worth by saying, hey, let's do that again. Okay, let's go do that again, right?
Absolutely. I think it makes, and I mean, for example, I mean, even today coming into the office, I ended up talking with this young kid and just explaining to him how easy it is. And he was like, I trust you and I need to get a rental property. And I was like, well, but I think people don't understand. First of all, interest rates are at an amazing rate right now. It's almost free money to invest in yourself. So there's just so many opportunities. And I think we need to educate these, the 20-year-olds on how they can do this because they're willing to do it. And it can be done. It's not that hard.
Yeah. And it's actually, from
With
my
a great agent.
perspective, it's so much easier at a younger age if you have the perspective around it. Because I mean, one of the things I took advantage of is I would buy a house, I would fix it up, I would live in it 2 years, and then I would convert that to a rental property or sell that property, and then I wouldn't get dinged for capital gains. I'd take that money and be able to go move into one house and buy another house, right? And that becomes much easier before you have way too much stuff that you're like, where am I going to put this? Right. And your kids are going to a specific school or whatever it is. So I actually think if we can educate kids to start that at a younger age, it's going to put them way, way ahead in life. I
agree. And that's what just helped my daughter, who's 21. Just her and her fiance just bought their first home.
Oh, that's awesome. And I think you mentioned they're getting married in like 10 days or so.
10 days.
Super exciting. That's exciting. And like when I hear other people, it starts to freak me out because my daughters are getting older now and I don't want those days to come. What didn't we talk about from an investment standpoint that you think would be important for us to bring up in this conversation?
I really do feel that investors need to know who they're going to be using, if they are going to be using themselves to manage the property or if they're going to interview property managers. And they need to know the questions to ask property managers. I think a couple of things that I see in our industry is days on market, how fast property managers can turn those properties around, and the time that they take to make sure that they don't have a high vacancy rate. And then also, how many problems they have on the backside. Have you ever asked a property manager how many evictions they've had or the kind of problems that they've had to deal with? Because that says a lot about them too.
I totally agree. And honestly, I in most cases, I think self-managing does not work the way you think it is.
Absolutely.
Or the way it will. Even with my own properties, the property management company I own manages my own properties, but I'm very clear with the tenants of your property manager is this person that works for me. Like, it's different when they come to you direct and they're like, well, I need help with this or this. And all of a sudden then you become, I don't want to say that you should eliminate compassion, but it just is a different conversation than having a property manager that is representing you as the owner of how do I protect the asset? What is the right decision based on what you hired me to do, right? It takes the emotion out of it a little bit. So one quick question to wrap things up. is you're obviously an incredible talent, both inside and outside of business. And to be honest, there's hundreds of brokerages out there that would love to have you. Why do you choose to be in business with me and with KW?
Well, first of all, Marcus, I love your energy. I love the knowledge that I have received at KW. I really feel they care about educating us, and we have so many opportunities to be able to be educated so that we can represent our clients better. And ultimately, I think that that's what KW wants, is to help people to become financially independent by making good real estate choices. And I'll be honest, that's how I think it was in the book Hold, and it talked about that millionaires are made from real estate.
That, yeah, it's so true. If there was a gift I could give all of our agents, it would just give them a passion around investing, and just being that diligent investor. I know both you and I just recently listened to the wealth building series on the Win, Make, Give podcast. And I think that's something that we should pull a group of our agents together and mastermind a little bit more about it. Because even though obviously you and I are both passionate about real estate investing, is an educated, responsible investor is investing in more than just real estate, right? There's other investment opportunities. And I think the number one missed opportunity for investment is people investing in themselves. Mm-hmm. Because if you can invest in yourself, all other investment opportunities will show up. And I'd love to join with you and have a deeper conversation with some of our other agents that are hungry for that knowledge. I think it'd be a fun mastermind.
I love it. I love it. And I know they're hungry for it because I hear it in the office. So let's do it.
Yeah, awesome. I love it. Well, let's wrap up our conversation with me just telling you how grateful I am to be in business with you. I'm so proud to be part of your story, and just look forward to learning and growing more over the next several years.
Thank you. I feel the same.
Okay, thanks so much.
Yep,
Bye, everyone.
Bye.